Hello and welcome to City Corner. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. We all know that homelessness is a huge problem in the city of St. Louis. And on today's City Corner, we're going to tackle the issues surrounding it and see what the city of St. Louis is doing to fight back. So stick around for City Corner coming up next on STL TV. And welcome to the show. Well, today joining us on City Corner to talk about this homelessness crisis is Mr. Bill Seedoff. He's the Director of Human Services for the City of St. Louis, and Antoinette Triplett. She is the Division Manager of Homeless Services, also for the City of St. Louis. And both of you, thank you so much for joining us. It's a huge topic and a huge issue. So, Bill, we're going to start with you. Sure. On any given day in St. Louis, there could be 1,300 homeless people. If you count some of the surrounding areas in the county and Metro East Side, it could be another 700 right there. It's not surprising because of the statistics, but it's a huge issue.
It is a huge issue, but actually, comparatively speaking, St. Louis has less of a problem than most major cities in the country. We have done a tremendous job with the leadership of Mayor Slay. We've been able to reduce homelessness by 30% in the last, 12 years since Mayor Slay's been in office. And if you compare us to any other city, major city, you'll see that St. Louis with 1,300 homeless people on any given day, compared to like Washington, D.C. Similar, climate, 5,500 homeless people on any given day. So, we look at rates of homelessness. In the city, it's about 0.37%. compared to about 1% in Washington, D.C. That's an easy, one to look at because there's a lot of similarities about it. I think it's a national disgrace, by the way, that Washington, D.C. has 1% of their population that are homeless.
Especially with the president right there.
Exactly. This is our nation's capital, but, St. Louis, by comparison, is doing a very good job, and we've made significant progress in terms of reducing homelessness here in the city of St. Louis.
I understand. I think the average age of a homeless person is about 45, and it's usually 80% males and around 20% females. But Antoinette, I was looking at a study in August of 2011, the St. Louis University submitted to the Missouri Housing and Development Commission. It listed homeless children in the city of St. Louis at about 1,758, followed by the Ferguson-Florissant School District at about 1,300, and about 1,000 in one of the Kansas City school districts. So there's also the issue of children in homelessness, but is it more of a transitional thing with the kids?
Well, actually, the average age is much lower than that if you include children. The average age of adults would be 45. So the federal government counts homelessness differently for children and families, depending on which federal agency you're talking about. So HUD may count it one way, meaning those that that live on the streets or live in shelter or transitional housing. The Department of Education may count those that are doubled up in housing situations or overcrowded situations. So that's where you get the difference in the number.
I guess there's probably a leeway too. If they say there's 1,300 or 1,500 or 700, can you actually count the homeless, or how do you go about counting the children and the homeless? Because if it's raining one night, some people might be hiding out in a tunnel or somewhere, and I don't see how you could always get an exact count.
You'll never get an exact count of any census that you take, even the federal and U.S. Census. However, what we do in the city of St. Louis, we count homeless people during the daytime. So many people come out to lunch, so we count them at lunch sites, in the parks, probably about 50 locations throughout the city. The most popular places that we count homeless people are at the lunch sites, and it's usually before the end of the month, and usually on a Wednesday because a lot of church organizations provide meals on Wednesday. So you see a lot of people coming out to take part in a meal service. And so that's where we get the best count.
That would make sense. Let's break down some of the numbers, Bill, that factor into key roles. It seems like 65% suffer from mental illnesses. There's a large percent of military veterans. Let's take it a step further. 65% mental illnesses and substance abuse, those two seem to be at the top of the list because of homeless. I mean, it would make sense because if you're on drugs, it might be hard to keep a job or a roof over your head. And if you have mental illness, you know, you're going to need help in just living a day-to-day life.
Well, I think we need to make a distinction here between chronic homeless people and the rest of the homeless population. Chronic homeless individuals are those that you're talking about when you talk about 65% have mental illness. You know, this is a category of the homeless that is really a HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development definition, that is individuals or families that have been homeless for over a year or have had 4 episodes of homelessness in a 3-year period. So that's a very specific population, and it constitutes about 15% of the total homeless. So the majority actually of homeless people are not, you know, single individuals, they're families. But the population you're talking about, the chronic homeless, is who we have focused on with our 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness. That is something that's been done across the country. 300 cities adopted 10-year plans to end chronic homelessness, and we did that back in 2005. And since that time, we have seen a dramatic reduction to the point now that we think that we're going to end chronic homelessness here in the city of St. Louis, probably the first city in the country to be able to say that and to be able to accomplish that.
Excellent.
I do want to add to that. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
sure.
And the reason why we focus on chronic homelessness, not just in the city but across the country, is because the chronic homeless population uses 50% of the resources. They're the population that will be in the emergency room. They'll be in our institutions, our jail systems, or getting police calls. So if we concentrate on having them housed, then we can use those other resources for those that just have short episodes of homelessness.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that right there to you, Bill. In January of 2011, the National Alliance to End Homelessness reported that 1 in 11 ex-offenders released from prison will be homeless in a year, and that's alarming.
You know, that was part of our 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness. We identified the ex-offender population, the reentry issue, as one that was very important in terms of reducing homelessness. Here in the state of Missouri, we've made extensive efforts to try to help individuals who are coming back into society, leaving our state correctional facilities. We have a group, in fact, I just spoke at a gathering yesterday, what was called the STAR Summit. That is a group of people here in the local area, in the region, that is working to help individuals who are coming out of correctional facilities to make sure that they don't end up on the street or in homeless shelters. We had a very successful program just within the last couple of years that really significantly impacted that population and making sure that they got the things they needed in terms of having a place to live, help with employment, but having also someone that they could, you know, really go to get help to make their reentry back into our community successful.
Yeah, I'm going to revisit some of that in the next segment as well. I did want to mention this. Pastor Chris Rice, the son of Larry Rice, it seems like they're always in the news and, you know, going back and forth about the homeless issues and debating the topic, but he's actually been quoted as saying he's witnessed police vans pull up near the New Life Evangelistic Center and some of the homeless areas, you know, the parks where some of them sleep, and the police will remove handcuffs, let them out, and quickly drive away. Now, that can't help the issue at all.
Yeah. Well, I think he's right on about that. I don't know about the handcuffing, you know, but we know that the city of St. Louis is kind of the dumping ground for homeless people from the entire region. I don't agree sometimes with Reverend Rice, you know, on the positions that he takes on things, but on this particular issue, you know, he's right on. We know that because of lack of resources in surrounding, you know, communities and surrounding counties, that when people become homeless, they end up being either having to come to the city of St. Louis or literally brought to the city of St. Louis because there's nothing else available to them. So we implore surrounding counties, we have said this repeatedly, we need help. I mean, if we're going to end chronic homelessness or we're going to end homelessness, period, there has to be that regional participation to help individuals where they become homeless in the first place, and that's not happening currently.
You know, to add to that, he was quoted on February 23rd, 2012 in an Associated Press story by Jim Salter stating that suburban hospitals and detox centers are bringing their former patients down here, some of them in gowns, and just releasing them to the streets. And he also goes on to say that typically 200 to 225 people may be in one of his homeless shelters, but with the dumping in St. Louis, you know, that figure can go up to 300 and 325 in just his location in one day. So people are dumping, they're bringing people to St. Louis and just dropping them off.
I don't think there's any question about that. I question the numbers at New Life Evangelistic Center. They don't have that capacity. But I do agree that there has been, because of the absence of any resources in surrounding counties, hospitals and others, this has not been documented, sufficiently. But, we know, and we certainly had reports that we've had individuals that have literally been brought to Lucas Park, which is just north of the public library, to New Life Evangelistic Center, dumped there, because of the absence of any resources that exist in surrounding counties. And that really, I think, should be a wake-up call to surrounding counties. Say, step to the plate. Help the people that become homeless in your own county. Don't expect the city of St. Louis to be, the one place where everybody has to come in order to get help.
In a radical measure, I'm going to say one more thing about Larry Rice and we'll move on. We're going to take a break in a minute. But he also said that in Belleville, he witnessed a bunch of people being dumped off, and he went as far as to drive them, load them up, and drive them back to Belleville. Belleville's mayor, Mark Eckert, denied that, but that would seem a little radical.
Well, I can't attest to what happened in that situation, but I think that we know that because, and if anybody understands what goes on in in the surrounding communities or counties, that there is just no services to speak of. I mean, it's just not sufficient to address the population of individuals who become homeless in their own cities and towns.
Before we go to break, Antoinette, on November 5th, 2009, city park rangers raided a homeless camp and destroyed all the homeless possessions. Why was that done? And was that for usefulness, or was it maybe just to clean up an area that needed to be sanitized?
I'll let Mr. Cito.
Or Bill, you want to address
Let me
that?
talk about that, because that was an episode that happened at Interco Park, just north of St. Patrick's Center. And there was some possessions of individuals that should never have happened, that were destroyed, that were taken. And since that time, by the way, I should tell you, and that's been several years ago now, we established what we call a tag and bag program, that everything is now that is found in any public parks, whether it be downtown or any place else in the city of St. Louis, is taken, it is tagged, it is bagged. We store those things for 60 days. We notify homeless providers in the city that these particular items have been found, so that individuals can come back and retrieve those things. We never want to have that kind of thing happen again. So we did establish something to make sure that doesn't happen and will never occur again in the city.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we've talked about a lot of the issues and problems with homelessness. We're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the great things the city of St. Louis is doing to combat this, and touch back on the 10-year initiative from the mayor, and we'll discuss that after these messages. We'll be right back.
Watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The odds of this daughter of a clergyman spending 11 weeks at #1 on the U.S. singles charts? 1 in 19 million. The odds of going on to win 6 Grammy Awards? 1 in 1.4 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm Toni Braxton, and I encourage you to learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org.
And welcome back to City Corner. Our topic today is chronic homelessness. Bill Seedoff and Antoinette Triplett are with us from the city of St. Louis, and we're going to pick up our conversation. We were talking about the homeless, and you know, a lot of times it seems like when there's large conventions in town or maybe NCAA sporting events, you know, it's not the best view of the city to have homeless people protesting or right there. Do you think sometimes, just in an effort to show the city in the light, that you might kind of try to brush the homeless away from time to time just to get them out of the mainstream, or find an area where they're just not so front and center, Antoinette?
My personal opinion, homeless people are just like anybody else. They want to be involved in all the festivities that the city has to offer. And so I don't think we should just brush it away.
You know, Bill, does it happen? Maybe just subconsciously?
Well, I don't think that, you know, I think the thing that probably is most aggravating among most people is that and actually we've been engaged, our department, in terms of addressing some of those issues. We've had some panhandling that goes on at highway exits, for example. Some people might notice that we have put up signage that if you want to help homeless people, call United Way's 211 number. We've taken certain steps, you know, to try to address the aggressive panhandling that often goes on, that can be, you know, somewhat intimidating to people, and a real put-off that, you know, I think doesn't present the best face of the city of St. Louis. So
what I'd say on February 26, 2013, Mayor Slay, yourself, and several other factions put together a comprehensive effort to end chronic homelessness. And I know, Antoinette, you're pretty familiar with this project. The Beach Project, what's that stand for?
The Beach Project stands for the beginning of the end, abolishing chronic homelessness. And so our goal in the city of St. Louis is to eradicate chronic homelessness before our 2015 goal. We think that in the city of St. Louis, we can virtually end chronic homeless by the end of this year. So we have a huge undertaking that we're in the process of working with. We have over 20 partners at the table with us.
Fantastic. Now, what are some of the things that we can do to provide housing assistance to the homeless?
So what we're doing with the Beach Project, we're providing an array of services with all of the partners. We're providing housing, which is funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We're working with the St. Louis Mental Health Board to work on mental health services. We're working on financial counseling and helping people get rebanked. We're also working with helping people clear up some of their legal issues with a group called Arch City Defenders. And that group will help people with civil and criminal issues that they may have that's preventing them from going into housing or even finding a job.
You know, it would seem like if you could help some homeless people get birth certificates, Social Security cards, things simple like that, maybe some hygiene issues, get them in a place, then you can kind of turn this thing around. How do you think? What do you think?
Well, you know, this whole issue with, you know, getting state IDs and birth certificates is a major problem. In fact, I just talked to the superintendent of schools this morning. I was at a mayor's commission meeting on children, youth, and families, talking about the problem of, you know, securing birth certificates, even to get kids enrolled in school. It's a $15 charge. It's gotten a lot more complicated to get a state ID than it used to be, just because of the change in procedures of some of the homeland security things that are now required. It's made it a lot more complicated. So it's something that we're working on in terms of trying to address the needs of securing those kind of things. But You know, this is a new project that we're instituting, the Beach Project. We think we will be the first city in the country to end chronic homelessness, and we are so blessed in this community to have the number of partners, the providers. I could go down the list: St. Patrick's Center, Peter and Paul Community Services, Salvation Army. I mean, they are just incredible in the kind of work that they do and what they contribute to help homeless people in our community. We've done it very smartly, I think. We're not a direct service agency, our department. We depend on these partners to provide the services. And, you know, we also, what we were able to accomplish on the riverfront, some people recall the 10 cities, we had 61 people. We were able to relocate those people. The Beach Project really is kind of adopting many of the same things we did there. Get people into permanent supportive housing, not shelters, not transitional housing, their own place to live, apartments, and then give them the support services they need in order to be able to stay there.
And Antoinette, it seems like you know, transportation and logistics could be a barrier for a homeless person as well. It's like, how do they get around? You know, if they jump on the Metrolink, they don't have a ticket, they get a $50 fine, then the next thing you know, they got to go to court, and it just turns into this huge.
Assist the person from beginning to end. So our goal, and definitely under the 10-year plan, is about rapid rehousing. So our goal right now is to rapidly rehouse those people and then bring wraparound services to them where they are. So some of the unconventional partners that we have at the table would be something like the St. Louis Community Credit Union or MERS Goodwill to help people find jobs. We're working within our own department, our Slade division, to help people get bus passes or bus tickets at a reduced cost or free while they're in the beach program. So we've learned a lot from the Riverfront Encampment, and we learned a lot from the initiative, Hope is Moving In initiative on prevention, and so we're moving in that direction of bringing all the resources together.
And what about food? You know, a lot of times people don't want to go to the same soup kitchen over and over each day. Or is there like a food stamp program? We looked at some pictures up here, Francis Lay and some individuals here taking part in that study. But during that study, do they make other foods available besides just the soup kitchens? Can you get food stamps?
So we're also working, one of our partners is the St. Louis Food Bank. It's an unconventional partner that we haven't worked with before. And so they will also provide 250 pounds of food for people when they first move into their units. Part of the goal of the requirement for the providers is to help people get all those things that's necessary. So they'll be working to expedite their Social Security benefits. They'll work to link them to other services, food stamp services if they don't have any. So we're working on we have so many things to do to help people, but we're working on all of those issues.
Those pictures that you saw were from the homeless summit that we had on the 26th of February at the Missouri History Museum. We had a tremendous turnout of many different individuals that were involved in the whole effort to try to end chronic homelessness. And that was just, you know, the participants, including Mayor Slay. We had Philip Mangano, who was former director of U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, appointee of President Bush, who has lauded the city of St. Louis for the efforts that they've made in terms of addressing homelessness here in St. Louis.
You know, how difficult is it to provide dental exams, eye exams, mental health screenings, and things like that? Because, you know, that's very important for the homeless.
So you lead right into another one of our partners. Grace Hill will actually help with physical examinations and become the primary care providers for those that we identify as chronically homeless. They'll receive eye exam as well as dental exams. So we have a whole array of partners. There's so many to mention. Shalom House, Peter and Paul, as Mr. Seedoff mentioned, Gateway 180, Catholic Charities. I'm leaving out somebody, but.
There's too many to mention.
I was going to ask you, who's going to pick up the tab for all this?
We're very fortunate.
HUD has changed its focus over the last year and has basically rewritten all the regulations that pertain to our office. The goal is to work on rapid rehousing and prevention. So the funding is moving in that direction. So we've had a small amount of increased funding to concentrate on that particular population.
You know, I was going to ask you about if there's any more of the sponsors. You've mentioned several of them. If you'd like to mention some of those right now. And, you know, and for both of you, what's your hope for the future of the chronically homeless people? Because I don't know if you can ever solve it, because once, you know, you get these people into a house, then someone else is going to come along and be needy as well and be sleeping on the streets. So, you know, what's your hope? Can it really be solved?
Let me just say that, you know, we've counted in our last census, which we did, you know, at the end of January, 138 chronic homeless people that are now in the city of St. Louis. Those are the individuals we're targeting in the Beach Project. What we want to have happen is that we want to prevent anybody from becoming chronic homeless. You know, we're never going to stop homelessness altogether. There's going to be that need for individuals on an emergency basis that have to go into shelters. But what we don't want is for long-term homelessness, that people, you know, end up being homeless for over 12 months or have 4 episodes of homelessness in 3 years. We want to make sure that we don't have chronic homelessness. There's going to be some homelessness, you know, that occurs because of events that happen in people's lives, but we don't want long-term chronic homelessness, and we think we can prevent that.
So prevention is probably the huge topic.
Prevention is the key. We've awarded some money to Urban League, a large pot of money to Urban League, to work on prevention. In the future, we'll move toward providing prevention services where people become homeless. People do not become homeless downtown. And so we want to, in order to eradicate homelessness or chronic homelessness, we'll move services into those areas, and we've identified those.
Before we let you go, if someone would like to make a donation or has a concern about some projects or issues about the homeless, who should they contact?
They should contact me, and I'll give my number. My number is 657-1702, and they can call me with any questions or if they want to assist in this effort.
Okay, well,
Let me add real quickly too, United Way 211 is also a number that can be called. You know, if people need help, you know, with services, call 211.
all right. Thanks a lot,
Thank
Bill.
you. Good to be with you.
Antoinette, thanks a lot. That's City Corner. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.